Welcome to our backyard, except we're not going to stay in our backyard very long. We're heading to Breckenridge, Colorado, and we're taking you with us. We're going to be in the Rocky Mountains, and we're going to have this Gamo air rifle. In fact, this is one of three videos that we plan to do in that area, from Breckenridge, Colorado, and the Rockies, clear up to Buffalo, Wyoming, and what they then call the Bighorns. But I promise it'll be fun. If we can shoot a few squirrels, maybe some rabbits, and some prairie dogs, I'll consider it a success. This is a pre-hunt. We're not going to be hunting. That comes a month from now in October, but we're looking for the right signs. We're looking for the right spaces to be once the hunt season begins. As you know, if this is not the video you want, there's a small little circle off to the side on your computer or your cell phone of my face, and if you click it, then you'll access all of our 50 plus videos. You'll find some on accuracy and different pellets and different air rifles being tested. Maybe that's what you'll like doing to that. Other than that, always remember we love a thumbs up. We love for it when you subscribe, and you'll get these next two videos that are coming, and also in the mountains. And third, we'd like to hear your comments. I answer them all, and we'll do that once we receive them. Take care. Well, welcome to Dr. Russ Air Rifle Adventures. I've brought several air guns with me today. This happens to be the Gamo Maxim multi-shot 22 caliber. Great for squirrels, and here in the Rocky Mountains, and that's where we are at, we got a lot of these black squirrels, and they're fast. Further down on the plains, we'll get to the prairie dogs, and this gun just does a great job out to about 60, 70 yards. But like I said, we brought a lot of air guns with us, and we'll teach you what we know. First of all, I want you to look over my shoulder and see how high these mountains are. I'm Dr. Russ, and we're at about 9,500 feet right now. Up at the top up there, it's closer to 11,000. And that's what we would call a high country hunt. You'll find mountain lions up there and elk. Those are your two main goals. Some wolves, but not many. Further south, where we're spending the night, is Breckenridge, about maybe 9,200 feet above elevation. When you do a high country hunt in mountains, you always want to bring an air gun or a gun, but you also want to bring fishing equipment. You see that stream behind me? It's full of trout. Not rainbow trout, not brook trout, but primarily these cutthroat trout. That's a big trout. Tasty. It's got a big red mark right here in the throat area, and he is delicious. You can shoot just about anything you want when you're here in Wyoming, in Colorado. I'll be in Wyoming next week. But up there again are the mountain lions and the elk. Right about in this area, down to about 4,000 feet, you'll find deer, mule deer. And then below that, the mountains kind of stretch on out and plateau, and that's where we'll find prairie dogs, cottontails, jackrabbits. A little farther north up in Wyoming, that's where they invented this thing called a jackalope, a mystical beast that talks about an antelope and a jackrabbit mating and formed a jackalope. Just a myth, but it makes a great wall mount. We'll try to share all that with you while we spend a couple of weeks here in the Rocky Mountains first, and in the Bighorn Mountains second. Well, these Rocky Mountains are beautiful. And they run all the way from Mexico on into Canada. They have different names along the way. Next week we'll be in Wyoming, where they're called the Bighorns. A little further up, I think they're called the Cabinets. But they provide a great place for what we call high country hunts, and a great river to fish for those cutthroat trout. We're still looking for the areas that the deer, be a mule deer in this area, where the mule deer will bed down and then where they'll eat. And in October, where they'll mate. Those are the things we're discovering on this trip. As you follow these tracks, sometimes you get cut off by a river or stream. Sometimes they're too deep, and sometimes they're not. But right here, it looks like we'll be able to get our a ute side by side across the river here, an ATV, and if you don't have those, some good tall rubber boots. Well, we're still traveling north here up these Rocky Mountains. This is a snow fence behind me, and when they put that down, you don't go north of it. The snow's too deep. But look way up on that ridge behind us, 12,000 feet up. It never got below zero up there, and you see some snow in that valley. What you're looking up there at is where the tree line ends on the Rockies, and the air is just too thin above that for trees to grow. And down here at this other end, you'll see that glacier appearing in that valley. Still some snow. It's probably 30, 25 degrees up there. It's about 60 here. Well, we've climbed about 200-300 feet above that creek that's roaring below, and you better be prepared for high country hunts. Better do some exercise, more than I did, when you get out here. What you see behind me is a beautiful tree line. An animal that I didn't talk about before was the black bear. Fortunately, he or she is pretty much a vegetarian, not interested in eating you, but that doesn't mean to step between her and her pups. Then she is interested in eating you. They've put some grizzlies, the brown bears, out in a couple of places, and they're trying to get them to grow out here again, multiply. Ranchers aren't real excited about it. Ranchers that have sheep and cows. There are some brown bears that are really black bears. Very hard to tell the difference between those two. But anyway, a lot of climbing here in the Rocky Mountains. Well, it's almost noon, and I'm pretty worn out in this high country. I brought Abby with me, one of our Dobermans. She's a European Dobe. Hair's a little longer than normal. The blacks are a little blacker, the reds are a little redder, etc. At any rate, I brought her along just because there are bears in this country, and she'd keep them off me and and her off of them. But you got to be careful with dogs. You can't have dogs on a lot of hunts, particularly hunt dogs. There's one thing to take them on a raccoon hunt or something, but not deer. And we're not doing that today. We're hunting for small critters. We're really perusing this land to see what it has to offer for us this coming fall. I've got with me the Gamo Maxim 22. And I can tell you one of the disadvantages of it, it really doesn't have any place for a sling. And you need a sling. Carrying it like this is tough, coming up country like you see behind us. But boy, this place offers a lot of sweet places to hunt. One of the secrets of hunting in the mountains is that you can get altitude sickness, and you don't want it. Kind of resembles vertigo. You want to fall, you get dizzy. This is not the place you want to do that. So one of the secrets is that you always make sure you hunt or walk or bicycle, whatever you're going to do, at higher elevations, and then come down to lower elevations to sleep. You've got to come down at least 1,000 feet. Unless you're going to be here for a week, you'll be sick for a week. But that's my best tip for not getting altitude sickness. Beautiful place, Colorado. Lots of streams. Like I say, when you're hunting out here, you want to bring a fishing pole too. I didn't bring mine this time, but I will when I return for the hunt. I'm reminded of a rancher I was staying with out here who said, I'm going to take you up into a blind I have, and this is high country. This will be where the elk will pass. I said, sure. We got into his blind. Nothing more than a bunch of bramble bushes around us. And we kind of squat. I had this rifle between my legs. And as we were squatting, he squatted, I squatted. He starts telling me just what I'm going to see and what I'm not going to see. A movement caught my eye, and I looked down between his legs. And here was a big diamondback rattlesnake just coming between his legs. His name was Larry. I said, hey, Larry, don't breathe. And I took my butt of my rifle and hit that thing right behind the neck. He jumped up, of course, took a knife and cut the head off as it stuck out from my stock. It's another exciting adventure out here that I remember, previous hunts. One of the things you always want to do when you go to your hunting area, if possible, and if you've arrived a little early, is to make sure that that gun you're shooting hasn't been bumped, the scope been bumped, iron sights bumped, barrel bumped, and now she doesn't shoot as accurately as she did back home. The second thing that I've personally been concerned about is we're up here at about 10, 11,000 feet right now. And the air is thin. So that means that the velocity will pick up. That means that the pellet won't drop as much as it would normally. Bullets too. Plus, with an air gun, when I cock it, I've got thinner air into the nitro piston. So we'll find out here just how accurate or inaccurate this gun has become after this trip. Looks pretty good. Let's go check. Now there's a 3-shot group at 40 yards. Couple of things going on here. One, we're at 11,000 feet right now. A little bit further and we'll be out of the tree line. They need oxygen just like we do. And they only grow so far up a mountain. I don't have a lot of break barrel rifles. This Gamo is one, and I'm keeping it. One of the things that I found with Gamo is that they have a 20-inch barrel. And if you look at one of my videos, it talked about the fact that barrel length is a deal breaker for me. But if the pellet's going in here and the spread of my fingers are about 9.5 inches, you can see in here we're right at 19 inches. And that's what this does. About 19.5, I think, is the actual measurement. If you check other break barrel guns, 9 to 11 inches. Well, that'd be like shooting a long-range target with a pistol. It's pretty tough. Nonetheless, I like the length of this barrel. And here, it has really made a difference on this target. Now, a couple things. Notice that I'm shooting about 2 inches high, and I'm shooting a hair to the right, maybe an inch to the right. How did that happen? Well, a couple of things. You want to always test your powder gun or air gun after you get to your destination. Sometimes the scope gets hit, the barrel gets hit, and it's not as accurate as it was back home. I suspect that might be part of the problem here. The second thing that happens is that we're in thinner air. So this pellet and powdered rifle bullets, they go through the air faster, a little higher velocity, and they can shoot a little higher on down the range because of that increased velocity. What I wasn't sure about, I'm still not sure about, is that once you cock this gun and you put that air into a piston, is that piston got thin air? And does that make a difference? But right now, I've got to get this rifle shooting down because I think most of the targets I'll be shooting as 35 to 40 yards. Rocky Mountains are beautiful. I don't know if it's the beauty that takes away your breath or about 11,000 feet up we're at. But I thought we'd shoot a couple of Rocky Mountain black bears. And this area has an awful lot of turkeys too. And so those are actual size targets. The other question was, I have 3 air guns with me on this trip. One is a break barrel, a Gamo Maxim, multi-shot black barrel, Maxim break barrel. And over here you can see, here are the magazines for that 22 caliber Maxim. Here are 3 for a Benjamin Armata. And then here are 3 for 25 caliber in a bully, Hudson bully gun. And I'll be shooting all 3 of them during this pre-hunt trip. But how do you get them filled? Well, I thought about bringing a compressor, and then I decided, no, from Michigan to Colorado and Wyoming and back is too much. So I do have a Hudson compressor, and you can plug it in the wall, or you can plug it to your car battery. In this case, I even have one of these converters that you plug into your cigarette lighter, and I can plug the compressor right into it. So I'm not too worried about having the air, at least for these guns, maybe for me, but the air to make this pre-hunt possible. Well, we were following a pretty good elk and mule deer trail here, and then we've come across another critter. There's a horse print right there, and obviously some sort of a guided tour or something's taking place. I see some horse crap over here, and I can faintly pick up 1, maybe 2 dirt bikes. Some kids have been running on this trail. That's enough to keep me off of it. Well, these Bighorn Mountains are just beautiful places to hunt in. We tried the slopes and couldn't get within 200 yards of any prairie dogs. I think that the powder rifle boys have already been there and spooked them out 200 and 300 yards out. A little bit far for the 3 air rifles I brought with me up here. But nonetheless, we've seen a few turkeys and an elk or 2. A mule deer seemed to be hiding somewhere. But this isn't to hunt anyway. This is a pre-hunt trip to the Rockies and to the Bighorn Mountains in Wyoming. Like I said, we've seen a few turkeys. Let's see how this rifle, after it's traveled, can hit that bullseye target down there, and then we'll shoot that turkey target. right on the bullseye. Let's see if we can get a group there. I think my shots are hitting each other. One more. Let's go take a look. Well, hopefully you see 3 holes right in the bullseye at 35 yards. Now we're going to try to hit this turkey down here in the head and the next shot. Those are really the only 2. While these 4 Gamo air rifles have some small variances, one of them is the barrel. And I have to tell you, I love in a break barrel this barrel, which is 20 inches long. If you check most break barrels, they'll run from 9 inches up to about 12, 13. To my knowledge, Gamo's the only one that makes a 19.9 inch barrel. And if that barrel isn't 20 inches long, reaching out there 65, 70 yards is a little tough. It has a moderated barrel and a rifled barrel. And if you were going to put a moderator on this gun, you'd be hard pressed. You'd have to take this whole thing apart, get down to the real barrel underneath this moderated barrel. And I'm not sure you would gain a lot. This Maxim 22 shoots rather quietly, I think. And so I believe it to be backyard friendly. Most break barrels, you'll have a little trouble putting any type of moderator on them. Other than that, I think this is one of the good break barrel rifles. Continuing with the good news, this air gun only weighs about 5.5 pounds. That's very light and easy to carry. It requires 30 pounds to cock it. That's not bad either. And the trigger is a 2-stage. They call it a CAT, custom adjustable trigger. And it has a manual safety. You can see I put it on there and off. And I'm for one on manual safeties. Hatson does a lot of these automatic safeties. If you're new to air gunning, you might want to be using a Hatson. But if you're not so new, I think the manual safety at least is the right one for me. I like the Gamo break barrels, as I said earlier, because they have a 20-inch barrel when most other break barrels don't even come close. And the length of that rifled barrel makes a lot of difference. In an earlier video I did on the Gamo, I talked about how this magazine would throw pellets out onto the ground when you cocked it. It was something that others had complained about as well. And several wrote in and said, no, here's the trouble. Once you put a pellet into that hole right there, you can see that hole, you've got to push it in further with a ballpoint pen, pencil or something. Because you see that rubber band there, that's the rubber retention band. And that's got to go into the skirt. Now you remember pellets have a narrow waist, unlike myself, a narrow waist, and that's where the rubber band must grab. And if you're not pushing the pellet far enough into this magazine, you're not going to get that. And then when you cock, the pellets will spin out onto the ground. So that's the way you solve that particular issue. Typically, any scope that comes with any air gun is not a great one. I like to buy guns without the scope, without bipods, etc. and put my own on, usually spending over $100 on a gun that might be 100, 200. This Maxim is 200. A lot of that 10-shot multi-group air guns called the Whisper, the Fusion, the Maxim, they'll run close to about $200, $230. The fourth one is the Magnum. It holds more air in that piston. It shoots that piston out with greater strength, and it has a little greater velocity. But they come with scopes, and they come without iron sights. And as a result, that's not going to help you a bit. Nonetheless, consider those 4 guns from Gamo as good ones, particularly that barrel. I like it. Let's see if I can hit that turkey's head at about 35 yards. Let's take a look. Well, initially it may look like I've done a perfect shot here, but I didn't. You see, right there comes in underneath the chin and into this flabby neck he has. That just get him to turn around and run. Where I was aiming was right here. And it's in this head area right here. In fact, you can see the imprint of a brain. And that's what you want to do. You want to take out that head shot and take out the brain. A neck shot is very, very difficult. You can see the neck bones here, and you'd have to actually hit one of those bones to be a killing shot. Anything down in the body, I think, is a waste of time and an invitation to a wounded animal out there in the woods. Well, now we're going to head a little higher up in the Rocky Mountains, up near a town called Ten Sleep. You may or may not be familiar with that, but it's good elk territory. And it's where the Indians had some meetings, if you will. Remember to give us a thumbs up if you so desire, if you think this video was a good one. If you want to comment, leave them. I answer them all. Certainly subscribe so you don't miss the next 2 videos, all in the mountains. Our next video will test the Hatson Bully in a 25 caliber. And the third video, we're going to be testing the Benjamin Armada in a 25 caliber in the Bighorns. So I hope to see you in a week.